Okay.
All right.
Well, welcome to the first episode of the Rock Dot Chronicles. I am
That's a good
indeed
title.
I
That's
am
a
the
good
Rock
title.
Dot. We got stories.
I like the Rock Dot Chronicles.
Yeah. There are times
kind of
where we'll
epic.
tell stories. There's times where we're going to just talk to people. Sometimes we might even actually get into something trendy that's happening in medicine. I don't know.
like what? Like a new stint or like a balloon something?
No, it's, people.
I don't know.
things-
I'm not a doctor. I'm a drag queen.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Sometimes
I
things
don't know.
pop up and they become a big deal. But it's fall. The one thing I equate, it's cool, getting cool out, that I equate with the fall is my birthday. And
I would hope.
yeah. Heels of Horror. And
Yeah,
so
Heels of Horror.
I'm really, really excited to have a Columbus icon who has burst onto really the world stage in the last year.
Yeah.
The brilliant person, the
Okay.
kind soul, a really good friend of mine, Andrew Levitt.
Hi.
The genius behind Nina West.
Hi.
So, for people that don't know, Andrew performs as Nina West, who's a drag queen. You've been doing that for how long?
Yeah, I've been doing drag for about 18 years, almost 19 years. And, the stories, I fell into it. It found me. I never intended to do drag.
Yeah.
I wanted to move to New York City and pursue Broadway and be a theater actor.
Right.
Not even any interest in television or film. And
Right.
9/11 happened, and I went to college here in Granville, Ohio, which is
Right.
about 45 minutes northeast of Columbus. And my parents then, after I graduated high school, I'm also originally from northeast Ohio.
Right.
Not northeastern Columbus, but northeastern Ohio. I'm originally from North Canton, Greentown, Akron area. And my parents moved down here to Columbus my freshman year of college. And so then 9/11 happened. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. But then 9/11 happened, and I was planning to move to New York. I graduated in May of 2001 with expectations of settling into a new apartment in October. And 9/11 changed that plan for me pretty drastically and dramatically. I opted to stay in Columbus. I lived at home with my parents for a while and tried to figure out what the next step was for my life. And somehow in that process, I was going out to gay bars with my best friend Patricia. And in the process, we met Virginia West, who was my drag mother, and who kind of introduced me to drag and allowed me to come and play and treat it initially like it was theater and an outlet to perform. And so I was really kind of like haphazard with it, and I didn't kind of give it the attention or the nurturing that it needed because I just didn't understand what drag was.
Right. So, for people that don't know, so you have a drag mother.
Yeah.
So it's basically the person that mentors you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Virginia was your drag mother.
Yeah.
And traditionally, you take on the last name of your.
Not
mother,
always.
maybe?
Not always. So I have a good example. So yeah, a drag mother is a person who teaches you things about makeup or teaches you things about the business or the industry, a mentor, if you will. But they also become, you kind of begin to form these really tight, family bonds with these people.
Like you guys call yourselves the West family at this
Well,
point.
yeah. Well, I think that's just really common for queer people in general, though. I think that
Makes
for
sense.
so many of us, we go through a period of coming out, and in that coming out period, which however long it takes us to come to terms with who we are, it takes our parents equally as long. So you have to understand, so when a 16-year-old is coming out to their parents, it will probably take their parents, maybe they have some acknowledgement of the fact that their child might be queer or different, but it does take those parents an equally long amount of time to come to terms with their child's sexuality or gender identity, because being an other that is unmarked, it's hard for people to come to reconcile that because you don't see that. So sometimes many queer people are forced to choose their families, and drag is like a bigger microcosm.
Right.
But drag is even like a larger microcosm of that fact.
Right.
And so drag performers tend to gravitate towards one another and tend to form those bonds together. Yeah.
Like there are like almost like legendary families. I'm like almost like the West family is on the radar. Is that now? Davenport's.
It's really major in the ball scene. So like an even further underground subculture of drag, which is a subculture of a community, which is a subculture of it's further sex of subculture. Right. But really the house scene and the family scene really became big in the ball scene, which then allowed, like white people always do, they appropriate from people of color and try to make it their own, which is pretty unfair. Okay. But the house culture and the ball culture and the family culture really does come from the ball scene.
And you have these different cultures. Now, there are different like aspects of drag. There's just the going to a bar and people are performing numbers. And then there's also the pageant scene. And you actually did pageants. I mean, it's like it's a pageant, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, drag is kind of the overarching umbrella with which we're kind of talking about. Right. And then there are all these other things that you can get involved with or how you perform, right?
And so you
I did pageantry, yeah. I did pageantry, which is just like Miss America or Miss USA. Right. It is like drag. It's just with drag queens.
And
it's very serious. Thousands of dollars are spent on your package. It's pretty serious.
And so probably the Miss America would be Entertainer of the Year. Is that would that be EOY or?
Well, there's a Big Four system. So like there's a Big Four. There's Big Four. It's called the Big Four, and it's 4 different pageantry systems: Miss Gay America, Miss Gay US of A, Miss Continental, and Entertainer of the Year. And so those systems are called the Big Four because they've been around the longest. They have a massive history. Miss Gay America being the oldest system in the country, having produced really excellent entertainers all over the country and teaching them the art of drag in a very different way.
And in 2008, you won Entertainer of the Year.
I did,
right?
yeah.
And you had this amazing performance. If you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. And there's a reason why. There's a little twist later we'll talk about. Amazing performance with a really inventive, creative number with a really cool dress.
Yeah.
So the thing I think that, and I don't know how drag is done nationally. I mean, you've been around and you've toured and
You're calling me old,
right? No, I'm not calling you old. I have not, gone to other cities, and I'm not. Yeah. It's not part of my culture of things that I necessarily do. But you guys, there's something that Columbus does that's really interesting, and you in Virginia in particular do these what you call main stage shows, right? Yeah. So these are actually like off-Broadway quality performances with a cast and crew of probably 20, 25?
It just depends on any given take on the show, but these are serious shows. We rehearse for 6 to 8 weeks on these productions. We employ, the economy of the show does employ probably 20 to 25 people. And those are all produced by myself of Virginia, and they're labors of love, right? I mean, you do it for the craft and the art and the love and the camaraderie and the friendship. It all plays in it all. This performance art and all of this drag, it serves so many facets of somebody's life who does it.
Right, and it blows my mind because when each of you would do two main stage shows here, so you're talking 6 to 8 weeks of rehearsal, but everybody has a day job, so it's like you're going to work. You're doing your 8 to 5. You might get home and rehearsals probably start at 7 or whatever time, and then that takes up your entire evening.
So it's a full. These are full days for these kids, and and even recently, I had a full-time job throughout my 17 years of drag until 4 months before I left for Drag Race, and that wasn't even when I didn't even know I was on Drag Race. I had just said, I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of burning the candle at both ends. I want to focus my energy on drag.
So these shows started catching on, and I think they started, drawing in a bigger audience. You started to get more of a name out there just in mainstream Columbus. I mean, I think you were doing was an American Idol recap on the morning news. There was a reality show recap you were doing.
I think the trajectory of my success in Columbus really starts with first doing my first charity show, and I think it was for the Columbus AIDS Task Force, which was then became
eventually became
ARC Ohio, and now it's Equitas Health.
Yeah, right.
So my success really started there, and what I really did, and like as advice to anyone who might be watching, my advice is that you have to really learn how to talk to other people and engage them and be authentic and come showing yourself and be willing to work. And I never have checked my ambition, but I've also never checked my. I have always kept my ego in check. Like I've always also kept who I am in check. Absolutely. And be respectful and responsible to others. This isn't a game of how quickly can I be famous. This is a game of I've always wanted longevity. I've always wanted a career, and I've always wanted to be a performance artist. So I'm now living that dream because of that determination.
And that's one of the other really awesome facets of you and what you mean.
I forgot to tell you how the trajectory worked. I was just talking.
But you're talking about you did the charity show. You've done a lot of charity work for the city. You're a big time philanthropist. You have your own the Nina West Fund. Which at the main stage shows you and Virginia make a point of doing a charity number at the end, and sometimes it turns into 5 charity numbers where people are donating money to a cause. Yeah. How much money have you guys raised at this point? And the last time I heard and that was a while ago, it was $2 million, and I'm sure it's way beyond that now.
We've raised a lot of money, and I don't really keep a tally on it anymore because I work through the Columbus Foundation, and that work is I'm doing good work through them. We're well over $2.5 million, but. Like I said, just to go back for a minute, the trajectory of my career, the success was found first in working with people and showing up just as myself. And then I was given a lot of opportunities. The first major opportunity I was given Columbus was, aside from being asked to host at Union and Access, which is a big deal because you're in front of 100, 200 people a night. And so that kind of catches fire and people start talking about you. But really the biggest opportunity I was given was by John Angelo in 2008. 2008 for the very first highball. Yeah. And there was no other hostess. John Angelo said, we're going to have this outdoor Halloween festival. We're going to close down a block of High Street. And it was right in front of it was right in front of the new Union Station Video Cafe, right underneath the walkway from Access. Yep. It was where the very first highball was. And they had me solely as the host. I was the only host, and I was a drag queen. And it's the city's Halloween party. Yeah, and that was major, and that really turned a tide for me. Sure. And because I could balance out my nightclub gig, which was being foul-mouthed and ridiculous, and then be really professional and show the city that drag queens are multifaceted and can handle a variety of responsibility.
So, your star continues to grow steadily of the city, right? Yeah. There's one thing that I really I found to be fascinating. It was in, I think, 2012. Travis Haywisher from 614 Magazine had this idea to highlight people in the city that were special, that were doing big things that he thought people needed to know more about. And he approached you to do it. Yeah. And then you said yes. And then you said no.
For a reason.
Right. But this is why I think it's really fascinating. At this point, you were fairly well known in the city, and the reason you didn't want to do it, that you were hesitant. You did. It's an amazing article if you can find it. It's really awesome.
It's on their website still. Yeah.
But the reason that you were hesitant to do it was because your parents didn't know that you did drag. Is that right?
Yeah. I think this is also one of those benchmarks of my career where someone comes into your life. Travis came into my life and drastically changed the trajectory of where I was going because I was, for a variety of reasons. Yeah, I was doing drag. I started drag in 2001. My parents live in Columbus. Right. My parents didn't know I was doing drag until 2012. And the story is that I've told myself many lies, and I've told myself many stories about why I didn't tell them. Mostly because I had some internal shame about drag not either being good enough or that my parents would think that I was a freak. And I never gave them the opportunity to meet me in that place to even have the chance to understand it.
Right.
And was a really unfair, selfish thing that I did. And so Travis approached me and he asked me, I was at the Candle Lab with you at the launch of the candle, the first time we did a candle together. And Travis walked up to me and said, hey, I'm throwing together an interview issue in January. And this was in September, October, I forget. But it was pretty towards the end of the year. This is all was happening pretty quickly. It comes out in January. This first time it was going to come out in January. And I remember it was July. It was July. It was over the summer. Because he had come up to me, and I remember how hot I was. And we went outside because I was just trying to cool off. It was so hot. Sure. And he'd said to me, he's asked me to do, hey, would you want to do this interview issue? I've got all these questions. And it would be you as Andrew, but we'd really be highlighting Nina because you're the artist, and then Nina's the art. Sure. I was like, yeah, I would love to do this. So that night I said yes. Then I got an email follow-up from him the next day, and I replied back and said, I actually can't do this. My parents don't know I do drag. And then I remember I sat down with Patricia, again, my best friend. I'll reference her all the time. Sure. We're pretty inseparable. I sat down with Patricia and I said, I just have to tell them. I have to be fair to my mom and dad. I have to give them the credit to know that I'm doing really great things in the world, and I want them to be a part of it. Right. One of the greatest things I was most shameful for was like in 2008 when I won Entertainer of the Year. I went on a tour around the country. My parents had no idea that I was doing drag and had no idea that I was traveling, and I was just lying. And that's not who I am.
But, and it's interesting because I've heard other drag queens kind of say and ones that are well known, they're successful, like have not they had not told their families or still haven't for a long time, right? So it's like
gay men of a certain age.
Coming out.
Gay men, it is an absolute second coming out. Gay men of a certain age, we have been conditioned. I say that because again, we're told that we're only sexual. We're told that we can only be sexual. I was told from a young age that I would get HIV and I would die by the time I was 22. Sure. I was told that I would end up alone. I was told that no one could ever love me. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely the song that was sung to people who are of my generation. Right. That we're not good enough. We're the post-AIDS generation who were told that the only thing we're good enough for is having indiscriminate, unprotected sex with people that we don't know. Right. And so we are intrinsically built with all of the shame to say that in any way we're just not good enough. Society tells us we're too effeminate. We're not men. We're not good enough. Right. And so again, I say gay men of a certain age because we're just people who were born in the late 70s, early 80s are definitely a product of a Reagan Bush era.
And that was you were growing up as a child during the time when AIDS was that was running rampant, and it was just
you didn't know what it was. You didn't know what it was.
It was absolutely frightening. To pivot a little bit, so you do this
pivoting,
interview, right? And you're right. That was a big point because since 2012. Now at this point you had been
but I want to connect that because that's why I hadn't told my parents. I was just so entrenched with shame that I wasn't good enough for them.
But then things started so many fascinating things started happening. One of them going back to when you won Entertainer of the Year, and this is why I think people should look this up. Around 2016, Sia.
You've got the timeline down.
Sia, I know. I do my research. Sia did this performance. I think it was
opening night of Coachella.
Coachella, right? Mm-hmm. And she did this. She was in a white dress, and it was your living dress. It was people under that made this dress, and it was just whoa. And even around Columbus, people were like, "Whoa, wait a minute."
I'll tell you. I thought I'd made it then. I really had this sense of, I don't know what I wanted, but I thought Sia was gonna come into Columbus and scoop me up and take me on tour with her, or hire me to do creative concepts for her. I really thought that was a defining moment. Right. Going back to one, I just want to finish that idea. Travis Haywisher came into my life and changed the trajectory of my life and allowed me to come to the truth that I needed to talk to my parents, which then changed everything else that happened along my path.
Because you were more open.
Because I was much more open, more confident. Right. I wasn't being shameful. I wasn't lying to anybody. That weight was gone. That weight was just gone. I just had dropped it. Right. So then when this happened, I thought, oh my God, I'm seen. People are seeing me for what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, the response was tremendous. She was lovely.
Yeah.
You know, she sent
you a bow.
She sent me the very first bow she ever wore.
Oh, no, it's the first one.
Yeah, the very first bow she ever wore in that whole chapter of that sea of that artistic.
What was it like? Because you went. She invited you to, I think, Panorama Fest. Was it?
She invited me. So yeah, initially what happened was she invited me. So she opened Coachella.
Right.
And she did 2 performances in Coachella. And I was invited to the second weekend to close Coachella, and I should have gone, but I couldn't cancel my show.
It was last minute, but you did Panorama. What was that like watching her open the show with your concept?
I mean, it was, we went to Panorama together.
We did.
Yeah. It was, again, I thought it was a defining moment for me.
Yeah.
You know, like that dress will forever be my legacy, forever. And I'm not known to be like a fashion forward icon in drag. That's not who that's not who people mark me as being.
Right.
But that was my concept. It was my idea, and it was executed incredibly. And that will forever be what people know me as. I mean, even most recently, as in like 4 days ago, Rihanna was judging a ball, and one of the entrants did my gown, and then paid homage to me and said, "Yes, I took this from Nina West." I mean, that's epic.
Wow.
Yeah, that's epic.
Wow.
And like, you know, and Rihanna's watching, and she's just, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. You had another like iconic New York moment where you went to see Adele in Madison Square Garden, and you dressed up. You went in drag.
I went in drag to Adele.
Yeah, and.
Because I heard she was pulling queens up and looked like her.
And she did.
And I was taking the chance.
Did.
Yeah, I took the chance.
Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, as they
you
call
don't,
it. And you got pulled up, and there's...
I think that what's so great about my life is that there's, I think, a really tremendous lesson for a lot of people to learn. I think it's important to be humble, and I think it's really important to put your head down and really work. And grind every axe you can possibly grind to get to the next step. I also think it's okay to be ambitious, and I do think it's okay to ask for things. Those things include help, collaboration, partnership, evolution, and they also ask opportunity. I went to that concert with really thinking she's not going to pull me up, but I also I put myself in the position to have the opportunity happen. Things don't happen for people who sit on the sidelines, and I think I've learned a lot in my life because I am a very sheepish, more reserved person out of drag. But in drag, I'm much more vibrant and loud and colorful. But that is still an extension of who I am. Like drag is not like hiding me. Like I'm not another person when I'm in drag. Nina's a character, but it's still Andrew.
Right.
But it's just really louder and more projected. And I have learned through my drag that if I don't actively participate in my life, someone else will. Someone else will take the opportunity. Someone else will have their life. I won't get my life that I want.
Right.
So it is a part process of dreaming. It's a part process of telling the universe what I want. And it's also a partial process of asking for help.
So here's kind of where I was going.
Where are we going?
You're finding all the success. These amazing things are happening. Every year you had applied to RuPaul's Drag Race. And then and you got turned down. It's like Groundhog Day.
9 times. It was a decade of my life.
Why did you, I mean, at this point you were in your late 30s. Why did you feel the need to keep applying or to be on that show? I mean, we'd made excuses. Like it was like, well, she's too big. She's already accomplished everything. She's too good for the show. She's not catty enough. And so
those were all proven wrong. Yeah.
And then
I mean, isn't that awesome? Because I forgot about that whole phase of that chapter of my life.
Why did you feel like you needed to keep applying when you've already reached a certain level of success?
Yeah, Drag Race came on television when I was 30 years old. I was reigning as Entertainer of the Year. And I remember hearing about this project that they were working on. They were casting drag queens all over the country. And there was an opportunity at that point for me to do it. And I didn't do it. And by opportunity, I mean there was conversation. I was never offered a spot on the show, but I remember, there being a conversation and people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, we're doing this thing." And so I did an audition for season 1. Season 2, I saw this show and I was like, that's cool. I do drag. This could be a thing. And then the show progressed and evolved and its identity changed, and as did mine. And so I was growing kind of with the show, and I saw, there's, I think this goes back to my story. I was quickly growing in 2008, 2009. It premiered in 2009. I was quickly growing within the city, and I was also quickly realizing I was doing the same thing over and over, and especially as it's gone on and more in these kind of later years of my career, in Columbus specifically, I was having a hard time challenging myself to feel content in the work that I was doing. Sure. And so Drag Race was never the, this will pull me out of Columbus. It was the idea of, this will challenge me to want to do new things and to elevate my drag and to find new opportunity that I can bring back to Columbus and make more exciting for myself and for the people here who are probably like, okay, I've seen Nina do Heels of Horror 12 times, or I've seen Nina do a Disney show. Right. I've seen Nina host show tunes. I've seen her in this context. I've seen her talk about, I felt there was like my upward movement, it kind of had hit a ceiling.
Right, you kind of plateaued. So, I don't know if you get a phone call or you get an email. What the hell was that moment like where this finally happened?
I was at a brush-up rehearsal for my show, Wonderful World of Dina, which was a Disney-inspired show. Yeah. And so we had just opened. What happened was we had opened, and I did opening weekend. And then I flew out Monday morning to do a psych evaluation in Atlanta, and nobody knew. I couldn't tell anybody.
Right.
Patricia knew.
Sure.
So I got on a plane. Sunday night I went home, packed an overnight bag, just to dress up.
Is like March, April.
This was April. Maybe, is that right? April, May.
Yeah, I know the spring show is usually sometime around
mid-April.
Okay, so
I go down to the psych eval. I'm home like within 2 hours. I go down to Atlanta, do the psych evaluation. They drive me to the airport, put me on a plane. I come back to Columbus. No one knows I'm gone. And then I think it was it was a brush-up rehearsal of the following week that I got a phone call from one of the producers. And I walked outside. I knew it was a Los Angeles number, and I was like, this could be my call. This could be it. And I had resigned myself to saying, well, if this doesn't happen, I'll figure out another opportunity.
Sure.
But it was the producer, and I got the call, and I can tell you it felt, I don't know, I immediately burst into tears. And I was like, everything just starts to pour and flash in front of your eyes. It's and you think about everything. Oh my God, what's it gonna be like? Oh my God, what's it gonna mean for my life back here? Right. And then all of those things kind of set into motion the second that you hang up that phone call, because you can't wait. The ball starts rolling.
How quickly from the phone call to the actual taping?
It's quick.
That's what I figured, because being here.
So I was working. So I mean, ideally, what was happening was I was in the middle of a show run,
right?
And I was driving and staying in Kentucky, ordering costumes, coming back, doing a show. I was doing it all under wraps. No one knew.
That's crazy. And then you were gone, and
I was gone.
I mean, and you're sequestered, right? Like you don't have your phone, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And you're very active on social media. And it didn't take too long before people started wondering, like, where in the world is Nina West? Yeah. What's going on here? There was a sham story that was kind of thrown out by Sam Schisler, who managed a lot of the stuff with the drag queen events and things at Access, that you had foot surgery, which everybody knew. It kind of put the pieces together. Yeah. You were gone. The thing that was interesting was you were gone. You missed Pride, which I know broke your heart. So every year I have this is the
stupidest thing I've ever done.
This is why.
Honestly, that was so
every
dumb.
year there's a parade that goes by my house. There's a doodah parade. It's really fun. I have people come over.
Stayed home.
And usually you would come over. Everybody kind of hangs out for the afternoon. July 3rd, out of nowhere, I just get a one-word text message from you that just said, "Hi," and I was like, "Whoa, what? Somebody's back." It's like, we're having the party for the parade. You should come over. You played the part. You had yourself in like a walking boot or crutches or something.
I sure did. I was fooling no one, but I did. Yeah.
You were there for about 5 minutes, and then you ghosted. I asked you about that later because I was like, "What? What was that?" And not right immediately later, like I think earlier this year. And you said it was just too overwhelming.
Yeah. So also, I think one of the things I came to terms with after Drag Race was, so for those of you who don't understand, when you film this show, it's pretty much any reality show. There's a period of time. Well, not any. Like Big Brother's shot live. Drag Race is not.
Sure.
Survivor's not shot live.
Could you imagine if it was?
No. Oh my God, it'd be bananas.
That'd be a disaster.
But I was gone for Drag Race for 6 weeks, and I was living kind of a very different, regimented, isolated life, and for 6 weeks, okay, a week maybe, it's like okay, cool, and then you come back and you kind of readapt pretty quickly. I just mentally had put myself through the ringer. I had exhausted every ounce of emotional stability, and I had come home on that day, and I thought it's a good idea. This is what I do every year.
Right.
But my point is that I learned through Drag Race that like my mental health was definitely something that needed attention.
Sure.
So I had gotten to your party, and it was overwhelming. Because it's not like it's just like, oh, Randy's having a little garage party. It's like the entire street's closed off for a parade, and this is in the gay neighborhood, and there are people that I see everywhere I look. I'm just seeing people, and it just became too much. And so right after I got back from Drag Race, one of the first things I did was I found a therapist.
That's great. I mean, 'cause that is, it's life altering. Coming out of something like that almost sounds like if you're scuba diving and you're resurfacing. You have to, and if you do it too quickly,
yeah,
reentry
is really hard, and I know that. I think that it is really brushed off a lot for a lot of people, and they just think, whatever, I did this, but they're not really attending to their mental state or their stability. I legitimately had to reassess. I jumped into a I was acting crazy. I jumped into a relationship, was ready to marry this guy, and I still love this guy. I love him very much, but I was like ready to marry him. And we were together for all of like 6 weeks. Like I mentally was like, I was fumbling because what I was trying to figure out was, how do I have some stability at home when all of this is announced, when all of this starts happening? Where are my roots? Where are my people going? Where are they going to be? Because everybody, and as I've learned now on the other side of the airing of Drag Race, is that change happens whether you want it or not. And you can't have everyone go along with you. Not everyone's willing to change at the rate that you're changing, and you also can't make excuses for the situations that you're being put in that are forcing you to change. I'm very grateful for what's happening to me.
Do you think that when you came back, you said you jumped into this relationship and it was super intense?
God,
do you think that part of that was everything during that 6 weeks? Everything was so intense, and like you almost felt like things needed to stay at that level of intensity, or
no? I'm a pretty pragmatic person, and I think that I realized I was like, I've got this really finite period of time where I have to make moves. Like, who knows how, you know what I mean? Like, who knows how long I'm going to be here to do these big shows? Like, my thought process was, it was just going a mile a minute. And I am a planner, and I am and I think about everything, and I also break it down almost. I almost overanalyze too much.
So you come back. It's almost like a second, I don't even want to say re-entry, but another launch, because you have 9 months or so between finishing the show.
So hard.
You can't say anything because the non-disclosure.
So
you can't tell people, even though everybody had figured out that you were on the show. You can't say anything about it, and then it gets announced in March.
It's a light switch.
And then all of a sudden you're off doing press media. I mean, all of a sudden you're out there again and in front of everybody. Everybody's paying all this attention. They did some really cool stuff. I mean, I think you were during that first immediate like press run, you were on Broadway, and you met Sarah Bareilles
Yeah, who
at
I
the
love.
stage door,
Yeah.
right? And all this stuff is going on. You're touring, and while that goes on, now all of a sudden now you're touring, which you hadn't really done intensively for years. You're in one city after another, for weeks on end. You show up at home for a few times,
A day or two.
but
Yep.
you're bouncing. Watching you, and I've told you this, watching your social media and watching, like, you were in California, and then you're in Texas, then you were in New Jersey, and then you were in Toronto, and this is like in the course of 4 days
in a row. Yeah.
I mean, you're in a different time zone every day.
Yeah.
And you're, how do you hold that together? 'Cause that's a huge lifestyle change.
Yeah, it's adapting to a new normal. I mean, like, I'm sure I look exhausted, but I mean, like, I'm tired, but I also love it. I also love this opportunity that's been put in front of me to go see the world, to meet new people, to have an impact on people's lives. Like, it's what I was gonna say. Like, I may not have gotten on Drag Race on seasons 2 through 11 or 2 through 10, but I got on 11, and there was a reason why. And I think it's because people needed a voice that was calming, kind, and compassionate,
Right.
especially in a really divisive time where people are
Sure.
are leading with their insecurity rather than with their heart.
Right, and that was really refreshing. Watching that show, you were so true to yourself. You were
Thanks.
sitting there, you're taking care of, talking to other contestants when they were having a hard time, when they were overwhelmed. You would pull them aside and talk to them, and you never got involved in any drama.
No, a lot of that was, I think my connection with a lot of the contestants was, and I know this because we still are in touch, it was really authentic, and I think I fell into a role of kind of how I am here. I'm a drag mother, right? I have kids who I want to nurture and take care of, and I saw a lot of these contestants as they reminded me of my drag children. I mean, like one of the contestants reminded me of Barbie, another one reminded me of Roxy, and then my relationship with Brooke is very reminiscent, very similar to my relationship with Virginia.
Sure.
Like, it felt, and I don't know if I was doing that to cope, or if it just felt, if that's what it made me. It all felt, a lot of it felt familiar. Like, it felt familiar, and I wanted to be parental, and I wanted to make sure that they were okay. And at a certain point in the competition, you realize only one person can win, and if it isn't me, I hope it's this person.
Right.
And if it isn't this person, I want them to really give it their best.
But I mean, I think the fact that you were so true to yourself really struck a chord with the audience.
Yeah.
So you got voted off. And
Kicked off. It's not really a voting process,
Okay.
but I mean, if it were,
you got kicked off.
I got kicked off.
Bitch,
Yeah.
you're no more.
No, it was not, it's not. No one votes really.
But then the response was
Bananas.
amazing. It was amazing to
Bananas.
watch. Like, people in Columbus were going to be, devastated or sad. But there were some celebrities that had just tweeted about it, and you got a message from somebody that's kind of, a superstar, right? I know AOC was an AOC tweet.
The process. So, like, talking about that episode specifically, I had booked myself to be in Columbus the night that I was eliminated and do a viewing party. I don't know what I was thinking, but I know everyone.
I figured that was going to be the case, and I purposely did not go because I didn't want to be there.
I think everyone knew at that point. I think there was
Maybe,
pretty common. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
But there was such momentum for me to, I think, go. I think the momentum was building every episode. I was really building my kind of my package or my pleading, the ability to plead my case for the crown. And so when I was eliminated, I was legitimately shocked in the elimination that I was eliminated. Because I was leading again. It's not the most
Logical?
Well, no, it's not the most like epic fashion runway that's ever been on the show, and nor would it be. But it's also not the biggest failure. But that was definitely fashion always does also have message, which makes my looks for that runway specifically, I think it's a shame that I was put in the bottom. However, it also changed the whole trajectory of my career after the show.
Part two.
100%. Like I'm grateful. Like people ask me, "Aren't you up? You were robbed," and then say, "I was robbed." I'm not going to disagree with you. I was robbed for the opportunity to plead for the crown, but I was also in having one thing taken from me. A lot of other things, a lot of tremendous gifts that I was not expecting were given to me. AOC gave me a shout out, and that was the biggest, because she was like, I see, even in a message she said, I see you, you're going to change the world, you're doing great things. And
That's
I
incredible.
received a lot of direct messages from a lot of really famous people. And I've had a really tremendous ride since then. But what's on this ride, I don't want to, this is not, I think what's been the sole focus these last few weeks specifically, because I was the first drag queen to go to the Emmys and walk the red carpet. I went to all these pre-Emmy parties, and I met all these really influential people, most of them celebrities. And it's remarkable, and it's amazing.
And you've become almost like the ambassador for this season of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, because you were on The View.
And we'll be on The View again, yeah.
And you got to go to the Maleficent premiere.
Yeah.
You did the Emmys. You got to be, you and Brooklyn, I think, were the two kind of that were tapped to represent the RuPaul's Drag Race at the Emmys.
Yeah, the Creative Art Emmys. So there's two Emmy ceremonies. Brooklyn and I did the Creative Arts Emmys, and then I did the Primetime Emmys after.
Right.
Yeah.
So, even though you didn't win, you...
Yeah, but the winning isn't necessarily comprised of getting to hang out with celebrity. I think it's awesome that I get to meet these people.
Okay.
But it's the fact that I am being seen for my work and allowing the opportunity to do more work, and then being put in front of people who make major creative decisions to want to work with me. And that's not celebrity. That's like directors, writers, producers, who say, "Oh my gosh, here's this drag queen who was really nice to us and had, was just wanting to have a conversation about X, Y, or Z. That's not even industry related. What's he doing?"
Right.
Like the chance to tell my story, the chance to connect with people, the chance to show the world that it's okay to lead with love.
Right.
That's my impact.
Your platform has been elevated to a level that I think you probably never expected it could be.
No.
And then the other thing is you're a big Disney fan. Mm-hmm. You got asked to do to voice a short called Coaster, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that real quick.
So Dan Lund, who is a Disney artist, he's I think the head of their special effects art animation, was producing this animated short. Amos Sussigan, who is a Warner Brothers artist and Disney trained, it was Dan's protege, is the director. And they heard me. I was on a special Pride web episode of The View with Meghan McCain and Adore Delano and Monet Exchange, and Meghan had posed the question of, "What do you want to do with your career?" And I was like, I was sitting in that chair and I kept thinking, well, I'm at ABC. ABC is owned by Disney. I have to say something. I'm here. I have to say it. And so I did. I said, my hope is that I get to have the opportunity to do voiceover work for Walt Disney Animation Studios, and they heard me. And this animated short is independent. It's an independent short, but it's with two incredibly amazing, brilliant artists, and it's a story of kind of what we all go through. It's called Coaster, which is about really your life is like a roller coaster. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and it came at the most perfect time of my life where I'm going on a tremendous up, but there will be downs. And I realize that this time is limited and finite, and I'm just trying to make the most of it as it lasts. And Coaster is such a great representation of that.
Right, and it's gotten great reviews. Where, when, and where can we see
Coaster,
it?
yeah, Coaster's currently doing the For Your Consideration circuit for the Oscars.
Okay.
I believe that period by the time this is out, I think that period will be over. We'll find out if it makes the short list for nomination in December, with the hopes of it being nominated come January. And then hopefully winning in February when the Oscars are. So
maybe you're on that EGOT path.
I mean, can you imagine?
That's what Chris, our producer, that's why he's flailing his arms right now. He mentioned that last week in just a conversation. I was like, really? And then I was like, oh yeah. I mean, you've got your hand in enough different areas.
I mean,
listen,
I'm not gonna poo-poo it because that's a dream.
Right, because
I'm not
everything
gonna
this
poo-poo it.
past year has been, I mean, in my head, like when listening to you talk about your path and where you're at, how you got here.
Yeah.
It like in my head, I'm hearing, and I know and it's probably because you're such a big Disney fan. I hear "When You Wish Upon a Star" in my head right now because everything that you've worked your tail off. You put yourself in good positions, but your dreams are actually coming true.
Here's the thing, the thing that no one ever tells you, and I wish that there would have been some kind of conversation for immediate success.
Yeah.
But I don't think my success is immediate. I think that's why I'm much more better prepared to handle this in ways that I have than a lot are. Because I've been doing it for so long and I have the experience, and I also, no one tells you you're going to work harder when you're more successful than you ever did without having. I mean, you have to work harder to maintain or to continue to get foots in doors or to even open a window. I mean, some things might seemingly come easier, or the perception might be, obviously Nina's got her foot in the door. No, you have to bang on the door. You've got to make people hear you. And if you don't keep knocking, why would anyone ever answer?
Right.
You can't stand out there and wait silently and hope that someone's going to see you. You got to knock on the door.
This has been awesome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think we probably need to wrap it up. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for giving us that insight. I think hopefully you inspired some people, even people that didn't know you through this story. And I wish you. I love watching this.
Well,
I love watching your journey. I love
you. This journey is. I'm in the process of living a dream, and you don't know. And I've always kind of been in that process. It was the dream of mine to have my own show, and I did that at Access. And I was living a dream every time I put on my own show, and you spend all that time. That's why I was so nurturing with those shows. Every one of those shows is a dream, And so it's I don't know. I think it's important to approach this as I'm a big dreamer, and I'm a big kid, and I was never told I couldn't. And so
that's awesome.
I don't think it's bad to dream, and I think that if you have the work ethic to want to get there, your dreams will happen. You have to sometimes go on. This is a path. My dream has taken me 18 years of a lot of wonderful things happening, and a lot of crap happening, but it's taken me this long to just get here.
Right, but you're not staying here. So
I'm
I cannot
continuing.
wait.
I'm moving.
I cannot.
I'm moving around. I'm never know where to look.
Wait to see where you're at in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years. It's been, and thanks for sharing that with everybody.
No, thanks for having me.
So
thanks for having me.
I'll have you back.
Yeah, we'll
probably just tell stories about concerts. We'll tell stories about concerts.
Probably Mumford or
exactly.
Yeah, or Vampire Weekend or
whatever.
Sia.
We'll hook up to go to some shows soon, right?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks again, Andrew.
Thanks, Randy.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Rock, doc.
We will be back in the